Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Monday night live stream for studentloanjustice.org. My name is Alan Collins, founder of Student Loan Justice. We've been around for 16 years now. We are the oldest and I think the largest grassroots group fighting only and absolutely and truly for student loan justice. So it's Monday. There's a lot going on. Tonight's topic, and I think this is pretty hot. Should we resume repaying our student loans in February? So I know that's sort of top of mind, or at least getting towards top of mind for a lot of people out there. By the way, if you're watching us on Facebook, feel free to make your comments and questions. I'm happy to answer them as I see them. So here's the thing. Okay, before the pandemic, so let's say December 2019, fewer than half, like 49.8%, or sorry, 48.9%, I think, were actually paying on their loans. So more than half of everybody was not paying on their federal student loans before the pandemic. So the pandemic happened, a ton of people lost their jobs, huge turmoil in the economy. Things have not certainly gotten better. I think a lot of people changed jobs. I think a lot of people's newer jobs probably pay less, or they're just much less stable. The point is, folks, this lending system is done. I think people, and correct me if you disagree, and I'm happy to have this conversation, I think people have rethought the whole thing about student loans during the pandemic. You know, we saw the country throw out trillions of dollars, much of it in the form of loans that don't need to be repaid. And so I think the enthusiasm even a year ago for resuming paying on student loans was very low. Today, I think it's non-existent. So guys, I don't know what the future holds, but I can tell you what I know. And what I know is what I just said. If I had to predict the future, I would be very surprised if come June of 2022, if even 25% of all federal student loan borrowers were resuming paying. That's my best estimate. I think we might see a little spike, like come February 1st. I think a few people might jump on board and start paying again. But I think a lot of those, maybe even like half of the people who resume paying, are going to be like, oh, yeah, no, wait a minute. Hold on. Remember, also, before the pandemic, 80% of all borrowers, 4 out of 5 borrowers, were not paying down their loans. Their loan balance was increasing. So either they weren't able to pay, or they were paying, but their loan balance was going up. That's a treadmill that nobody should be on. So yeah, guys, I maybe even, frankly, I'm usually a little conservative in my guessing on this. It could be as low as 20 or 15%. The point is, very few people were paying before the pandemic. Far fewer still are going to resume paying come February 1st. And remember, honestly, I still give it maybe a 50-50 chance that February 1st will even be meaningful. I think there's a very good chance that the Biden people are going to kick this can down the road yet again. In fact, if I had to bet on it, I would bet that is what's going to happen, because the people in Washington, D.C. know what I know. And what I know is that this lending system is failed catastrophically. So here's the other part of that question. I think this is the far more important part, is should I begin repaying my student loans? And my opinions are my own, but here is my opinion on that question. This is a big government lending beast. It is a predatory, unconstitutional lending scam. It is a national threat. In my humble opinion, nobody should ever pay another dime into this big government lending beast. Don't feed this beast. You know, the strongest tool that we have in our arsenal is the legal ability to not pay. And frankly, folks, I think we passed that point even before the pandemic. This is a beast that should not be fed. Now, I know probably at least 30% of you or something out there are like, yeah, but I'm scared. I'm scared of not paying because I don't want my wages to be garnished. I don't want my credit record to be hurt. I don't want to go into default and all that entails. And believe me, I get that. But having said that, ladies and gentlemen, at what point do you cease being afraid of this failed lending system? Like, we have people in our group that haven't paid for decades. They don't have any problems. They can get a loan. They can get along. They've organized their lives such that they're basically bulletproof. You know, there are a million things you can do to avoid wage garnishment. You can be a 1099 contractor. You know, you can work under the table. There's a lot of things that you can do to make sure that you are not an employee of a big faceless corporation that is going to do a wage garnishment request. You can talk to your boss if you have a good working environment. Tell your boss what hopefully you've learned from this group over the past few months or years. This is a lending scam. It's a failed lending scam. Almost nobody is paying on their loans now. Very few will, less than half certainly, whenever February 1st rolls around. The people asking your boss for a wage garnishment, they are not the Department of Education. They would like you to believe that they are, but they are not. They are cheesy, sleazy, boiler room collection goons who don't work for the Department of Education, and they're just trying to scare your boss into acceding to the wage garnishment. If your boss was to say, hey, this doesn't look right to me, bring me a court order or equivalent, and I'll do a wage garnishment, but I need to see a judgment here or something. They will go away. I can virtually guarantee that. They will go down the list to a more easy target on their little boilerplate collection goon squad list. Other people in our group, to avoid being in default on their loans, they make nominal payments every roughly 9 months. And if you read the language on the Department of Education's website, if you make a payment every 9 months, they won't consider your loans in default. Now, if you look at the actual law underlying that, it looks like they may have the capabilities to put your loans in default, at least legally. But I think as a practical matter, I don't think that happens. I think if you make a payment every 9 months, I think your loans will not be put into default. I think that's a pretty good bet. And again, we have many people on our group for years and years who have used this method to stay out of default. So folks, my opinion is, quite frankly, that at this late date in the death spiral of this lending system, not only is it unwise to resume paying into this beast, it's unpatriotic. That doesn't help you. It doesn't help the 45 million other people in the country, 39 or 40 million of whom we're never going to be able to repay their loans. And certainly it doesn't help the country in general. It doesn't help to solve this problem. It feeds this problem. In my humble opinion, you shouldn't do that. It's unwise and it's unpatriotic. But, you know, everybody can make their own decisions. I get that. Everybody can and they will. And, you know, I understand. We have people here who work for the federal government. They're a salaried employee for the federal government. And, you know, I can see how that would be just an incredibly difficult decision to decide not to pay. So, everybody has their own situations. I get that. But I stand by everything I've said tonight. I don't think even 25% of the borrowers are going to resume paying in February, if they even have the chutzpah to actually turn the lending system back on. I think that's probably pretty unlikely at this point, but we'll see. So, and there's many different dynamics to this, right? I would tell everybody out there, number one, maybe the most important thing I'll say tonight is, if you have not been paying on your loans, or if you will not be resuming paying on your loans, don't trip. I mean, frankly, I salute you. The one thing I would say, and that I would advise you very strongly, is to channel that energy. So the work you would have done to make the money to repay into the stupid lending system, which has failed, those resources that you use to do that, redirect that energy, redirect those resources. I don't mean pay money or anything. I just mean focus a ton of your energy on helping us in this fight. We're fighting for two things. We're fighting for the cancellation of all federally owned student loans, and we are fighting for the return of bankruptcy protections to all student loans. I think the latter probably has to happen in order for the former to happen. So I don't think we're going to see meaningful loan cancellation unless and until we get the threat of bankruptcy back on our side. So there's a bill that we're pushing right now, S2598. This bill is exceedingly important. By the way, if you have any questions or comments, I think I said that, throw them up. If you're watching us on Facebook, very happy to get your thoughts and opinions on this very important question of whether we should resume paying on our loans. So if you do not resume paying on your loans, and hey, like I said, I salute you. But let's be smart about this. And, I hope that you would see this as impetus to help us fight. Make this a part-time job. On any given day, we probably have a few hundred people who are really helping us fight this fight. We should have 100 times, 1,000 times more than that. Frankly, I wish that we had 500,000 people every day working with us, fighting with us, doing our daily actions. Go to the website, studentloanjustice.org. Check out the daily actions. Do them. Do a month worth of our daily actions. There's a lot that people out there can be doing. We've got an army. We've got a muscle to flex. We've got an army-sized muscle to flex. We've got over 1 million people on our petition right now. We've got like 1.1 million people on our petition. We've got another 50 or 60, 70,000 people on our Facebook group and our other platforms combined. We have a freaking army worth of muscle to flex. And that will only happen when you sitting there make it happen. So whatever your situation may be, you really need to be helping us, because we've been doing this for 16 years, folks. I do not want to be doing this for even 17 years. I want these loans gone. And I know exactly what needs to happen to get them gone. What needs to happen is more people need to be helping us fight. You cannot sit there and wait and watch and worry and hope and expect that anybody else is going to pull your weight for you. So if and when you don't resume paying on your student loans in February, that's great. That's fine. I salute you. But I would say, spend that energy helping us fight. It's a battle easily won, but it's only won when more people, way more people than are right now, step up and help. Towards that end, I asked everybody last night to do a donation to our artist, Vanessa. She has done a tremendous, tremendous job making memes and posters and films, and helping. Heather and Vanessa are running our AV club. We're 100% volunteer group, guys. The people that are doing the hard work and getting this problem solved, they're not doing it for money, and myself included. I'm a volunteer like everybody else. But you could really do a lot to help, even with a tiny donation to Vanessa, for example. Show her some love. Show her some support. I mean, frankly, you should be up down here in the trenches with us, getting your knuckles dirty, helping us fight. That's what you should be doing. You got to do something. You know, I'm starting to get a little pissed off at all the people on this group that sit around and do nothing. And I don't know if they think they're better than us. You're not. I don't know if they think that this problem is going to get solved and it's going to just fall into their laps and one day they're going to wake up and their loans are going to be gone. It doesn't happen like that. We got to fight. This is a fight that we have in our hands. So if it's doing our daily actions every single day, studentloanjustice.org, do that. It only takes a couple of minutes. You only need Twitter. What we're asking is not hard. Maybe it's calling both of your senators and getting them to co-sponsor S2598. That is absolutely critical right now. You can do that. You could be the one person that makes that happen. But, you know, sitting on your ass, eating popcorn, cheerleading, waiting, watching, and worrying and hoping that somebody else does your work for you, that's exactly the wrong thing to do. That's exactly what the bad guys, our opposition, that's exactly what they want you to do. They want you to do nothing so that they can conquer and enslave yet another generation of Americans. And that is just wrong on every level. You should not give them that pleasure. So I will leave it there at that, folks. Hopefully you've heard my marching orders here, and I don't like to bark orders. I don't. People, and I shouldn't have to. You know, these are your loans. This is your problem. And we're in a very real position right now to get these loans gone. With the threat of bankruptcy back on our side, all of a sudden, President Biden and his crew, they will realize that the jig on this big government lending scam is up. So to avoid seeing a wave of bankruptcy filings large enough to overwhelm the bankruptcy courts to the point of seizure, they will, in fact, broadly cancel student loans. But without bankruptcy there, I don't see it happening, guys. At best, as long as bankruptcy is gone from these loans, at best, I see this up to $50,000 nonsense that we've been hearing some of the politicos in Washington, D.C. Advertise. Up to $50,000 could mean anything. And if the Department of Education and all the snakes in the swamp in Washington, D.C., if they have their way, it will mean almost nothing for almost everybody. Believe me, I know. We've been doing this for 16 years now. So we got to fight for S2598. That is just absolutely critically important. We have more Republicans on that bill right now than Democrats. Believe you me, that is a pretty crazy thing. We're a fiercely nonpartisan group, so you know, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or none of the above, I would say we are. I am not none of the above. You're very welcome here. We're glad that you're here. No matter what you think about any other issue, whatever you think about gun control and abortion and healthcare and immigration and all that stuff, your opinions are your own. We respect that. It has no bearing here. We're glad that you're here. We're all on the same team. We're all fighting for student loan justice. So, but having said that, Republicans have been a real pain in the ass for us in Congress. Republicans have opposed us for the whole time that we've been doing this. Right now, S2598, we've got more Republicans than Democrat on this bill. And that's never happened before. We've got Josh Hawley, John Cornyn of Texas, Hawley is of Missouri, on our bill. There's only one Democrat right now, Senator Dick Durbin. So right now, this is a Republican bill. So that bodes just extremely well for us. And I can only hope that you see the light at the end of the tunnel like I do right now here tonight for the first time in ever. Like, seriously, guys, I could see this problem being solved by maybe even by the end of the year. You know, once we get our bankruptcy rights back, it's a pretty short path between that and widespread loan cancellation and finally a lending system that people can handle. Frankly, I don't think the lending system should even exist. I think they should end the lending system. And if you look at our Twitter feed, we put a very interesting question to Richard Cordray, who probably a pretty good guy, it seems to me. I've never actually met him. But we put a very interesting question to Richard over the weekend. We said, look, Richard, Mr. Cordray, and forward this video to him if you're watching this on Twitter. Richard Cordray, who runs the lending system, good guy, I think, 5-time Jeopardy champion, very smart guy without a doubt. He can either spend the next 3 years of this administration trying to keep this failed, dangerous, terrible, big government, catastrophically failed lending monstrosity going. He can do that. He can spend 3 years playing put the fire out here, put the fire out there. He's not going to succeed. The lending system is done. It's toast. It's failed. Very few people are going to pay come February 1st. But, he can either do that, spend 3 years, or he can spend between 3 and 7 years remaking higher education financing in this country. He could have a blank sheet of paper to build a higher education financing system, whether it's loans or grants or free college or whatever that may be. There's a lot of good ideas out there. He can spend the next 3 or 7 years doing that, creating something from scratch on a blank sheet of paper. Or he can do that first thing, which is just ridiculous. So I asked Richard, I said, Richard, what do you think is your highest and best calling between the two? He knows the answer to that question. It's the second thing. And by the way, if they do the first thing, there's no way on God's green earth that President Biden will win re-election. I mean, I don't even see that happening right now. I mean, who knows what the future holds, but I tonight guarantee you that as long as they keep doing what they've done on the student loans thing, there's no way that Biden will win re-election. Absolutely no way. So he can do that for 3 years, or there is a chance, at least, that Biden can somehow pull out re-election if they do the right thing on this student loan problem. And I know that sounds like I'm exaggerating, guys, but I'm not. I'm telling you, this is just the numbers. There's 45 million people in the country with student loans. 40 million of them were losing sleep over their loans and their family members. So that's probably 50 million before the pandemic. These people vote. We vote. And we're not all Democrats, by the way. My best estimate is that 55% of all student loan borrowers are either Republican or independent. So this is the Wild West of election politics, of presidential electoral politics. Donald Trump could have won in a landslide if he would have canceled loans before the election. Biggest mistake of Trump's presidency. Joe Biden could do it tomorrow by executive order. And we started that whole conversation, by the way. So, this group is a little more awesome than you might take it for. I know, looking at me and stuff, you're like, oh, wow, yeah, what is this group? We are actually the tip of the spear in this fight, folks. We've been doing this for 16 years now, but for our efforts, this group, people in this group, I seriously doubt we'd be talking about student loan cancellation by executive order. And I am virtually certain that we would not have a bill to fight for. In fact, I'm telling you, we would not have a bankruptcy bill in Congress to fight for. So we're way more important of a group than you think. And our strength is exactly and totally and directly proportional to how hard you help us fight. Hey, Vanessa tells me that somebody donated to her. Good. Well, thank you, whoever did that. I appreciate that. On that note, maybe I'll end it. And the last thing I will say, actually, I see a question here from Ann Barta. When do they vote on S-2598? That really depends on how hard we fight, Ann. The bill is in committee right now. Senator Durbin could get that bill out of committee like tomorrow if he wanted to. It could be up for a full Senate vote this week if Chuck Schumer really wanted to make that happen. So they respond. They're politicians, guys. We hate politicians, by the way. We hate both parties, by the way. So don't accuse me of being a D or an R, because that's just nonsense. That will be supremely insulting to me. But this bill could be passed through the Senate in a week. We'll still need a companion bill in the House, of course. That's how politics works in this country, unfortunately. but I could see that happening theoretically by the end of the year. It all depends on how hard we push. The bill could never pass if we don't push. That I really think is a possibility. So it really depends on us. You know, this stuff does not happen in a vacuum. I could see Joe Biden doing an executive order. I could see Richard Cordray and James Kowal and others, the Department of Education, administratively returning bankruptcy to student loans by stopping opposing student loan borrowers in bankruptcy court. It all depends on us. And so thanks for the question. So maybe the last thing I'll say is on the donation front, you know, as I said, we're a 100% volunteer group. We can do what we do. We can fight and we can win this battle on very little funding, like almost nothing, but we cannot in fact do it on nothing. So if you could donate, that's super helpful and valuable. I hope that you are pleased with the return on investment that we have realized, especially considering the $1 million a year, tens of millions, maybe even, that are spent against us by our opposition. The very last thing I'll say is if you look down on this group, you will see a post from Michael Sonato, who's a reporter at the Guardian newspaper. He's done some very good reporting on this issue in the past. He is seeking people to interview about the very question that we're talking about tonight, resuming payments on February 1st. So if you're interested in being interviewed, you can direct message Michael and tell him what you think. So do that. So, all right, guys, let's make this the best week ever. The very last thing I will say, go to our website, do a month worth of our daily actions, and do that every day. This is kind of your duty, so do it. Many other people are, but not nearly enough. It should be hundreds of thousands every day doing this. Be a part, be the change that you want to see. So with that, I will be back on Wednesday. Let's make this week count, guys. It is the biggest week in the history of our organization, and I think that's probably going to be true most weeks from here on out. So let's make it happen. I'll see you on Wednesday. Ed will be back. Ed will be here with you tomorrow. Good luck, everybody. Have a great week. Godspeed. And God bless everyone. And please donate.